All right, everybody, we will get this moving. I think I have things fixed up here a little better. We're just gonna bypass the countdown here. Hopefully this
All right, everybody, we will
we have
get this
audio. This is
moving. I think
incredible.
I
Things are actually working for a minute. We are running a new computer. We've got a MacBook Pro M4 Pro, 24 gigs RAM, 512 SSD. It's got the upgraded GPU, or not upgraded GPU, or is it? The upgraded CPU GPU option. This will fix our problems. I'm pretty confident. But I've got, folks, I wanted to do something way better than what I was planning tonight. Originally, the plan was to get the orange pies today and actually start setting this up and going through the basics, but they didn't show up again today. The two that I ordered out of my pocket didn't show up, and none of the ones that you guys have ordered have showed up yet either. I think we all ordered them all at once, and I think we screwed up the Amazon, like the in stock quantity. And I think when it was showing in stock, I don't think they actually were in stock, but they're coming. I honestly do think tomorrow, for sure. But what we're going to do in the meantime is we're just going to get familiar with some of the products we have and we're going to be using. So this was going to be our first build kind of instructional stream, and now I see we're having issues with the streaming, aren't we? I'm going to have to figure this out, folks. I don't know why this is happening because we have a solid internet connection. I just wonder if it is. I'm running this in Safari. I wonder if it is Safari doing it. So I apologize for that again, folks. This is just beyond unacceptable, but this will give us another moment here to get that worked out. But we were going to take, or another day to get that worked out, I should say. I was going to take, like I said, tonight, it's going to be our first building night. I might have just found the problem, folks. If you guys can just hold on for me one moment. Hold on one moment. Let me switch this to Chrome. Just hang on a second. All right, so we're going to try this in Chrome. If this doesn't work, folks, we may have to switch and just dump Restream altogether. Hold on. That's what we wanted. This just isn't, I don't know why this isn't working. I just literally just ran a speed test and I've got 77 megabits per second up. I don't understand why this isn't working as good as it should here. This makes no sense. We're plugged into Ethernet. We have just fine internet right now, so I have no clue what the deal is, folks. But maybe this will work a little better. I don't know if it's a Safari issue, but our actual computer issues, thankfully, will be solved now. So again, hopefully by tomorrow night, if I have to just go back to old school to running this through OBS and piping OBS into Restream and then going out to everywhere, that's fine. But I really don't like doing that because when we start having guests on here, then those guests have to come to my computer and then get pushed back out to you guys. So that means if there's a glitch with my connection or something, yeah, you see it just froze right there again. This is ridiculous. If there's a glitch with my connection, then they drop out too. So, but if we have to do that, we have to do that. Nope, it's not the camera, folks. It's like I said, it is absolutely 100% something with the Restream online studio, which is really unfortunate because I just gave them a $149 payment. So go figure. But yep. So anyway, like I said earlier, we were going to be doing our first build stream today, but the pies didn't come in. So we're going to use an old Raspberry Pi, which is actually, I don't know if I can show you this, is running in Linux here, barely. I'm testing a couple different things, but I'm going to basically, we're not really going to get into any of the Linux code. That's all going to be tomorrow. Okay, folks, tomorrow we're going to get into that. But tonight, I figure it probably makes more sense to do this anyway tonight. beforehand. So tonight I want to get into teaching everybody the basics, like the software we're going to need, things like that, because there's a lot of stuff that you have to get ready. Um, yeah, Dean says I just got a message from Dean, and he says Restream's been ass for him too. So all right, Restream is not just ass for us; it's apparently ass for everybody. So that's actually good to know. So yeah, it's just there's an issue with Restream's got this built-in studio, which is really really nice. But what just reloaded in the background, which is really really nice. But it just doesn't work well apparently. It seems that not like it seems to have a bitrate adjustment algorithm uh, problem. So like even though we're on a stable connection with like a 20 millisecond ping and 70 something megabits per second up or megabytes per second, whatever up, it'll still start dumping the video quality because it's using WebRTC, which shouldn't do that, but weird. So we'll see what happens. But StreamYard does work. The Streamlabs Talk Studio, that actually works pretty well too. Because I do like having this online way to get people piped in. But if we have to go back to just running OBS into the cloud, I guess so be it, and bringing people in on Zoom, whatever. But folks, again, there's a lot of setup that has to go on kind of behind the scenes, right? It's not just installing Windows and pointing and clicking and stuff like that. So we're going to need a couple different pieces of software to get our components ready. So I figured it's probably a better idea to do this kind of stream before the stream here start. So the first thing I want to do here is, I guess, share my screen. Maybe. Hold on. I have to set you guys up for that. Oh boy. Let's see if we can break the connection again. If there's anybody here that works for Restream and you're watching, I'm absolutely disgusted with you. You guys need to fix it. Yeah, StreamYard works okay, a little better. They seem to have a better like bitrate algorithm, if you want to call it that. So I want to draw your attention to our website here. I've got a couple of new options up at the top, and this all pertains to what we're doing today. We've got build progress, which again, folks, we've got our building dev notes or our interactive blog here. You can read all about, last night we wrote about power supplies. So a lot of people ask about them. And then of course we've got our parts list. The parts list is updated for what we're doing now. I did add a resources tab, folks. So if you go up here to resources, let me make this smaller so you can see it. How do I hide this? So if you go to resources, folks, I do have a Google Doc embedded just because it's easiest to use. We've got streaming services and then downloads. So this is going to be important later. We're not going to get into why we have this tonight, but it's going to be important later. Again, remember, folks, this is open source. This is meant to help you, whether you're a developer or maybe you are a storm chaser, maybe you're not. We want to get you guys the tools you need and kind of help you along, because this has been a gate kept and closed off sector of the internet for a long time. And a lot of us did kind of keep it closed off because we didn't want the weenies or the jerks or the bad apples to be part of it. But a lot of us are kind of seeing now that those guys just weed themselves out anyway. But we need to get back to that maker or that builder attitude here. And yeah, you can see we've got a couple of people looking already. But if you go to projectweathereye.com and then click on resources, there's two tabs. There will be more. There's stream services and downloads. Stream services, I've started to put a couple of services here because this is going to be pertinent later, maybe tomorrow or the day after. But there's a couple of streaming services here that we may use depending on what your intention for what we're building is. Because remember, just because I'm building this one way doesn't mean that you have to build it that way. You might choose to build these and use them as remote cameras, or maybe even your in-car camera or something, or a security camera, and stream it to your own service. And that's what we have here. We've got Caster and Live Push. Caster for $20 a month, you're going to get a 200 gigabyte web player. So this would be perfect if you're trying to set up some security cams or something. Live Push is also good. Restream's okay, but there's no web player. So folks, this is going to be referenced later on. So don't worry about this right now. Downloads, you're going to want to pay attention to this tonight. So if you're trying to get ready for what we're doing over the next few days, you're going to want to pay attention to the downloads here. You're likely going to want Balena Etcher. This is a tool to flash operating systems, basically, or images onto SD cards. So we're going to use it to specifically flash Debian, which is just a version of Linux. That's kind of like the standard desktop GUI based Linux. similar to Ubuntu, but Ubuntu is, I think, has stuff we don't need, so we're just going to use Debian. You'll need that for the Orange Pi 5 Plus and the Raxa. I don't know, is it Raxa, whatever, the rock boards like this. Um, you'll need it for this too, even if you are writing to eMMC. But if you're writing to the SD card as well. But Raspberry Pi, if you are using one of those, I know some people are, and for the Raspberry Pi users, you're not going to be able to do HEVC H265. You're going to have to stick to you probably can do, I think SRT will work okay on FFmpeg. So you're gonna have to stick to SRT or RTMP and H264. Lower quality, requires more data, but requires less computer power. So we're gonna go through this in several different ways for the folks. We're gonna help out the Raspberry Pi folks, because I know a lot of people are just stuck on that ecosystem, and that's fine. So Raspberry Pi folks, you're going to need the Raspberry Pi Imager and a download link there. And it's very simple. You just tell it what Raspberry Pi you have and what you want. Raspberry Pi OS is fine. It's not Debian, but it's all going to apply. Linux is Linux. It's just basically different modifications and different packages included with it. So you'll be just fine with that. But again, I don't recommend the Raspberry Pis. If you're going to, you need I would recommend a 5. You might be able to get it done with a 4. I am running a 4 right now for testing, and I will tell you right now, it is absolutely so hot I can barely touch it. It is maxed out. It's streaming 750 kilobits per second, 15 FPS, and it's running nothing but a web camera plugged into it. That's it. And it's hot. It is literally maxed out at like 95% CPU usage. That's it. That's all it's got. So don't recommend them. But if you're using it for like a security camera, you could run this down at like 10 or 15 FPS and like 400 kilobits a second probably, and probably get away with it just fine. There's some other tweaks we'll go through too, so that's why we wanted to include the Raspberry Pi in there. Also, I did put a link to the OS or the Debian images for the Rock board. I haven't gotten here to for the Orange Pi board yet, but they're all going to be in here. So don't worry, once we start building, this is where you're going to find it. What I want to give you guys a little update on though is what I'm kind of just a proof of concept for what I'm trying to do here, folks. And you'll notice something a little bit different in Radar Omega tonight. So we have a dummy cyclone port that we've dropped right there in Southwest Dane, Wisconsin, and that is our rapid deployment device that we're building, aka this turd right here, because that's what this is at the moment, running on a Raspberry. It is absolutely cooking itself. It is so hot I can barely touch it. Not even kidding. The Orange Pi 5 Plus that we're recommending to everybody, that's not going to do that. That's why we're recommending the Orange Pi 5 Plus. You can use the Rock. I just prefer the Orange Pi 5 Plus because it's got like full-size HDMI ports. It's a little bit like 20, 30 bucks more, but I think it's a better unit. But the Rocks will do okay too. That's because they have, a decent GPU on them. But if you actually go into Radar Omega, you'll be able to see this as well, as long as you've toggled on your Cyclone port network here on the left. This is actually a test stream right now, coming off of this turd right here. So there's going to be a little bit of a delay because I actually have this is the camera plugged into the Pi, and there is a reason this is on a delay. I have like a 15-second buffer on here because I'm actually trying to kind of record these packets and intercept these packets to kind of debug them a little bit. And we're also only running this at 10 FPS, 10 or 15 FPS, I don't remember, just because of that, software GPU limitation on there. So that's why there's this huge delay with it. But folks, that's kind of the proof of concept. That's how you're going to see these in the app, and you're going to be able to minimize them, move them around. See, there's that like 15-second lag. And it's really low quality right now. It's only like 750 kilobit H264. It's crap. But we're going to turn that up once we get the Orange Pi. I just wanted to build something and show you guys kind of a concept of it. And you can just see, I'll leave this up for a minute, how wide of a field of view this thing's got. So that's going to be really good for out in the field. But that's kind of how it's going to look. So you'll be able to overlay your radar and everything and go right down to street level of where we've dropped it. We're going to equip these with GPS pucks. We're going to sideload Cyclone port on these. So there'll be a GPS puck on it. So as it gets moved around, or somebody tries to steal it, we'll know where you're at. You never know. I know someone tried to steal Mark Sudduth's hurricane equipment, I guess, over the last season. So you never know, folks. But also, if it does get displaced, let's say a tornado hits it and it sends something flying, well, you're probably going to want to be able to go pick it up. So that's kind of how this is going to look in the app. Now, folks, for you guys that are building along with us, like I said, we're not necessarily looking to put everybody's build into the Radar Omega app. honestly, quite frankly, the opposite. Why is this not spotlighting? We're not going to put everybody's device in the app, but we are spitballing some ideas internally about things we can do here to make this interactive for other folks. The reason that I've included streaming services like Caster and Live Push is because some of you folks, especially you storm chasers, may want a web player, and a web player might look something like this. A web player will look something like this. Hold on here. So here's what Caster might look like, the caster.com option. This is what I'm going to recommend for a lot of folks, okay? Where you'll be able to restream. You'll have an RTMP, or more importantly, SRT. You'll have an SRT input, which is what the protocol we want to be using. God, I've got to shave my face. An SRT input over here, you can choose SRT or RTMP, and you'll also get a pull link. So if you have clients, media, or other YouTubers you work with, all you Ryan Hall kiddos out there, you can give him a pull link here off of this, or really anybody can distribute pull links, or even better, HLS web player, which I'll show you here in a moment. You'll be able to get, if you go to playback over here, you'll get an iframe, a responsive iframe. I've got to shave my face, people. Holy cripes. Or a direct player link. And if you actually open that direct player link, you'll see a stream offline, but it's got this little, you can overlay or burn in a logo and everything. It's pretty cool. And if you go to home, I've actually got a beta or a development web player iframed right into our thing here. So you're going to be able to stream to that. So like, thank you folks, you independent storm chasers, or you folks that are trying to set up like a security system or something. This is what you would want. You could obviously watch this stuff locally, right? But you could embed these into a basic HTML website, and that's going to be another topic. We're going to do some basic HTML coding, but you could basically do a very simple HTML page and just like put in 4 viewers of iframe, and iframe 4, or have a drop down and select what you want to select, and have a very easy to use service. And that's going to give you 200 gigabytes of bandwidth. If you're not sharing this with your viewers, you're never going to burn through that. If you are a chaser and you're embedding this in your website or something, you are possibly going to burn through that. And we'll talk about how to calculate data and all that stuff on live streams down the line. This is just kind of an introductory thing here where I wanted to kind of go over, some of our options here, since we can't do a full build right now. If that makes sense. So now you kind of have a better idea of what we're doing here, I think, and maybe that'll work for you folks to kind of understand a little better. Okay, so I want to show you guys how to use Balena Etcher. I have to close some stuff out. And I want to show you guys the Raspberry Pi imager, because I feel like this is stuff that's probably going to be important here over the next little while, next few days here. So folks, God, I'm still getting used to this. Right when I get used to it is when we end up dumping it, go figure. So what I want to show you guys first is I'll share with you my TV screen. I'm just curious if people watching this right now. Yeah, they are. Here, for you Radar Omega folks, I'm going to go ahead and just, you guys can see. Radar Omega is getting a behind the scenes look. How's that? You'll also notice on that camera on the app that there is a power line flicker, like those horizontal lines. It's set to 50 hertz for the electrical line or the power line setting. I have to set it to 60. When I set it to 60, it's fine, but I have to run a script to do that. I just haven't built it yet. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, folks, and I'm going to go ahead and bring Balena Etcher into view. So, folks, when you get, again, this is just getting everybody's feet wet. I'm not trying to really explain anything tonight, but I just want to kind of give you guys a taste for what we're going to get into tomorrow, because I feel like if you've seen this once briefly, then it's going to be so much easier to consume and absorb later on, right? So Balena Etcher, you'll be able to download. This is free. You're going to get a couple of things here, folks. You're going to need an SD card, like one of these, like you folks have been sending in. You don't need a full-size SD. You just need a micro, because that's going to go into the board. You're going to obviously need an image. So you're going to take one of those operating system images, and we'll go over which one to pick later. And you'll need to load it here. You'll do a flash from file, a URL, or you can actually clone a drive, but we would be doing a flash from a file. And this image here essentially is the operating system. The image basically tells, I'm just trying to find a random image here. The image is essentially the operating system installer. So when there's no software or operating system on these boards, period. You have to put it on yourself. So these operating systems get put onto the SD card, and the SD card goes in here, and then you can boot from it. More advanced options, you can move the installation to the onboard eMMC, which looks something like this. It looks like an SD card, but it's like a little SD card on a circuit, or a little SSD, or solid state disk on a circuit board. And again, we'll talk about that later. If I can even get this back on there, if it even matters at this point. Yeah, it doesn't matter at this point. Whatever the hell with that. But you'll need to burn that onto the SD card so this knows how to boot. This is dumb. It has no brain. You have to give it knowledge to work. So you would then select your target. You'd go here to select target, and nothing's showing up because I don't have an SD card in the computer. But when you plug it in, you may have to format it. We'll go over all that, but this should format it for you. It will show up here. You'll select it, and then you would select it, and you would click flash. And this thing's going to take, anywhere between 2 and 10 minutes. It's going to flash and then verify. And then once it's done, it'll allow you to eject the unit or the SD card or the memory. And then you'll be able to put it into here, and then essentially apply power to this board, and be able to go from there. And we'll talk about what you do next here in a moment. But we also probably should talk about, hold on, the Raspberry Pi Imager. Folks, Raspberry Pi Imager for the Raspberry Pi users is extremely simple as well. You would choose your Raspberry Pi device. Let's say you've got a Pi 5. Choose your operating system. I would recommend Pi OS 64. You can put your own on there, but it's Debian. Basically, it's a port of Bookworm. It's Debian. It's fine. It with just like a Raspberry Pi logo on it. And then you choose your storage, and here's where you would choose that SD card. And then you would click on next, and then it'll prompt you to pre-set it up. So like you can enable SSH, you can enable a lot of things on there like Wi-Fi before it's installed. Whereas with Balena Etcher, we have to go in and like manually do that stuff, which is fine, but Pi makes it a little bit simpler. But don't be afraid. Like none of this is really that hard, because we're all the command lines that we're going to put in, we're going to actually make available on the website for you folks. So once you get your board, basically something installed into your board, it's going to look like, hold on, I have to figure out the best way to show you guys this. I wonder if, hold on here. I wonder if I should do, let me see if I should just enable VNC viewer. Hang on a second. I have to download that VNC viewer. He is essentially something that's going to allow us to, it's like wireless screen sharing kind of. Raspberry Pi has a built-in. I don't know if Debian itself does, but we can install it if needed. And it is free. So I'm going to do a real quick install here of VNC, and then that way I can show you what's going on the development unit right now without having to like videotape a screen, if that makes sense, because videotaping a screen is never cool. Let me open it up here. VNC viewer. I've read the terms and conditions. And again, this is a tool you're probably going to use as well. I'm not going to sign in. And then I don't know what the IP address of this Pi is. So I'll need to find the IP address of the Pi. So I'm going to go on my phone real quick because I really don't want everybody seeing my network. But I actually do have this on a separate development network, but I've got them bridged together right now. And I really don't want you guys seeing, everything I've got on my network. That's a little bit creepy. Oh God. Okay, so Pi. So our address, IP address, 192.168. Oh shit, I don't have VNC enabled. Hold on here, guys. I have to switch my monitor, aka television, over to the Linux. Pi and then take my Pi keyboard and mouse, and I have to go in here and enable VNC. Which mouse is it? Got 3 computer mouse up here. So I have to go into the terminal, and we'll talk about this later. I have to go sudo raspi. Let me just enable this quick, and I'll kind of go over some of this. I think it's under interface options, VNC, enable. Any day now. But don't really be nervous about this kind of wireless stuff that we're doing, because what I do recommend to folks, okay, VNC server is enabled. Fantastic. So let me finish. What I'm doing right now is I've plugged an HDMI cable into my monitor, which is a TV, and I can switch the inputs, but you can actually take a computer monitor and just plug it into these boards and set them up with a keyboard and a mouse, which is probably going to be easier, but that's going to be up to you. And you can decide that and figure that out once we get to that point, if that makes sense, because this is going to be a learning process here for folks, and I am fully prepared for that. And again, sorry that we've just got more housekeeping tonight, but all right, so you can see here, I am going ahead and getting VNC to work. Ah, frick, where the hell did it go? Son of a gun. There it is. Username should be Pi and Pi. Give access, blah, blah, blah. So what you're seeing right now, folks, on screen, that is quite literally what is happening on this little machine right here, the little Pi that I was talking about, that is eventually going to be the orange Pi. It's better. But that's what we're looking at right now. So that's essentially the screen sharing of that, if that makes sense. So you can see I've got the console open right here. That's where I did some commands, and I'll show you some basic Linux commands so we can kind of get used to this together. But what I'm doing right now, and there is a bit of a lag because we're doing VNC. See, there's a lag. It's also obviously not previewing this at full, but I actually have OBS, Open Broadcast System, server system, OBS, whatever. I actually have OBS running. I'm not using FFmpeg because FF is just taking up too many resources, which is weird because I think OBS is actually using FFmpeg, but apparently it's managing it better. And essentially what I have going on here is in Linux, and there's no reason you can't do this either. And we'll talk about this here in a moment. I have a scene over here set up, and then in sources, I have a video capture device, which is that USB waterproof camera, the Ardu cam, blah, 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 blah. And you've got different video formats and everything. And I actually don't have this set up properly. So this is just kind of all, it is what it is out of the box. You can see that we've got the 50 Hertz. Oh, right there. Here, we'll change that. Because you see, I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's like these lines that are going across the video and they're like coming down. If you're on Radar Omega, you probably see that. I'm gonna change the power line frequency to 60 Hertz. And notice they just went away. So that's something to be mindful of. This is apparently a European camera with a European driver or something, or somewhere that's not America, and it's using the 50 Hertz power cycles, or the 50 cycle a second power line filter thing. So you got to change that to 60. But we'll talk about that all later. That's obviously way out of the scope of tonight's video. But we're running OBS, and we have basically just set this up to stream H.264 with RTMP. This is eventually going to be streaming SRT with H.265, which is high efficiency video codec. It basically means that we're going to be able to get higher quality video with less bandwidth, which is important, obviously. But essentially how we've done this right now, just for testing, is we've streamed to this RTMP server, the RTMP video one, radaromega.com/live with a stream key. Right. So obviously the stream key is a password. We're not going to show that, but this has gone to a Radar Omega ingest server. This will go to a project WeatherEye ingest server, and it's going to take H.265 and convert it to H.264. Now, folks, if you aren't capable of running any sort of SRT server and converting H.265 to H.264, then what you guys are probably going to want to do is just use SRT and H.264 for your applications. Again, we will show you how to do that and show you how to set up the transcoding server for H.265 later on, several videos down the line. And if you don't want to do that, You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. There is a simpler option. It's not as good, but it's still going to be just fine. So there's some settings in here. We've basically set up 700 kilobits per second. The video we're actually streaming at 540p, which is, what the frick, cat just hit the wall. But that's basically how this is working. And you know what, folks? If you don't want to, and we'll go over this too, if you don't want to make this complicated with FFmpeg and scripts, I don't see any reason stopping you from running OBS, setting it to run at startup, and then just telling it to start the stream when it runs. And that will just run on power up, and you don't need a monitor. You just run it. I don't see why that wouldn't work. The reason we're not going to use it is we're going to use SRT-LA, which is SRT link aggregation, to split our bandwidth up over multiple modems at once. So OBS doesn't do that, right? So we have to use FFmpeg and some other methods and server scripts to do that. But this is one option. This is like an easy way out for people that just don't understand a lot of this and they really don't care. Installing OBS is fairly straightforward and running on Linux. There's a couple of command lines you got to do, but it's pretty simple. So there's really no reason we couldn't just program OBS to open at startup. And then once it's started up, it could just start stream automatically. And then we would just go into like settings, and somewhere buried in the settings, there is an option for like reconnection. So like if it fails, if it loses internet, to reconnect after like 5 seconds and just continue and continue and continue. Let's see here. Yeah, don't feel lost, folks. We are going to get this is something we're going to do step by step. I just feel like we need to do this kind of housekeeping here to get started, right? I think that's really important. This gives you guys a little bit of a background. As you can see, how even I had to Google some commands over here on the left, but a couple of things I want to show you around Linux here. So in Linux, you have a terminal, right? And you can access this by VNC, how we're doing it now, whether it's through a keyboard and mouse with the HDMI on the monitor, like I showed you a minute ago, or you can SSH, and we'll talk about that later. You can SSH into this and essentially run this terminal on a remote device. And there's a couple of different things that you'll need to learn is, how to change directories and do things like that. But there's a couple of things. Now I'm going to just use Nginx. Nginx is an RTMP server, so we're going to use Nginx as basically just as a demonstration here on how to install something, just so you guys get the feel of this, because I feel like otherwise it's going to be real culture shock. Once we actually get to it in a couple of days, right? So when you're, I need to actually, hold on a second. I actually need the command for Nginx. I don't know what the git command is. It's just sudo apt and yeah. So there's like these online like repositories for software. Most of them are out there. So we're actually going to do sudo, which basically means you're running this at administrator. I know this is hard to see, people, but it means you're running it in like administrator mode. We're already logged in as root user, but I always do sudo whatever just because it's habit, and otherwise I start getting confused. So like sudo, and then hold on here. Is it just Nginx or is it Nginx-RTMP? So do sudo apt. That's not what I wanted. That was in the wrong browser. Whoops. Sorry about that. So you do sudo apt, and then it should be install Nginx, and it should find this. See, it's already doing its work there. It's finding all this stuff, whatever server repository it gets this from, and it's actually installing it right there. So it's not point and click like it is on Windows or Mac. You have to actually tell these things what you want it to do. Failed control processing. I think this is because I've actually I've got, yeah, this might fail because I think I've actually got pieces of Nginx installed on here. They're actually blocking this, but I think we can actually uninstall it here. Sudo. God dang it, I'm on the wrong frickin'. Sudo purge Nginx. Hold on. Oh, I just put the wrong command in. So like apt purge. Yeah, no, that was the right one. So yeah, the following packages will be removed. One, do you want to continue? Yes. So this is uninstalling it because I want to get that the hell off of here. And then it'll need to think. But this is just kind of to give you an idea of how this works, right? So it's very, very basic. It's very command line, right? And then there we go. We just installed Nginx and we just took it off, which pays no mind to us. But Nginx is simple. So you folks that are going to be just doing this as kind of like an around the house process, Nginx might be the way to go. Just installing Nginx, and just taking the USB camera and pumping it out to wherever. There's also an application here, folks, for you storm chasers that I'm going to get into right now. And I'm going to give you guys kind of a little taste of this or a little proof of concept. So the storm chasers out there, where this may come in handy, this may be a secondary application for you. If you've got a GoPro or an action camera and you try to live stream from that GoPro or action camera, hold on a second, and you try to stream from that. You try to stream from that GoPro or action camera. One thing you'll notice is if you hit a dead zone, it'll drop and you'll have to go back into like your app, like your DJI app or your GoPro app, and you'll have to restart that stream. And that's crap, right? Because you're going to hit a dead zone every 5 seconds out there. That's crap. And it's bound to a hotspot. It's just a pain in the ass. So what you can actually do with a board like this, you can take a small Wi-Fi, like a travel router or some sort of internet source, and put this on the internet source and assign some static IPs. Super, super easy. You put this, basically, you have your GoPro, your action camera over here. You have your Pi or your board in the middle. And then over here, you have the internet. This you would run Nginx on, receive an RTMP stream from your action camera or whatever, receive that RTMP stream. And then you can either blast it back out from here to the cloud over RTMP, or you can actually use SRT, which is better, and blast it out that way. Now, the reason you may want to do that is because if you hit a dead zone, the camera is here and it's talking to the board. It's not talking to the internet. It's only talking to this computer, this board. It never sees this connection drop because it doesn't care about the internet. It only cares about the server on this board. So it's talking to the server constantly, right? So if this board loses its connection or its phone line to the internet, if it can't talk to the internet anymore, that's between this board and the internet. That's not the problem between the camera, the action camera streaming RTMP, and this board. It's between the board and the internet. So the camera never sees a disconnection. So the camera will stream indefinitely until you turn this off. Benefit: you can program Nginx on this board to continually retry. So if this loses connection to the cell network or Starlink or whatever you're running, it doesn't matter. It's just going to wait 5 seconds and try again. If it fails, wait 5 seconds, try again. Fails, wait 5 seconds, try again. Very useful. Very useful. And then you can also program this to record that stream locally on an external SSD. You, in theory, can also run multiple cameras. And some of you guys are seeing what I'm getting at here. And probably going to blow your minds with this, folks, you chasers. You can run multiple cameras, stream them into this. You could use a phone with Larix or whatever and stream them into this and not worry about running all these connections on your phone. Stream them into this and record every single stream locally, whether it's your roof camera, your backup camera, your main camera, your POV camera. You can run them all simultaneously into this and stream them locally. You might not want to restream them all at the same time, but there's a very easy way to switch between them, whether it's systematically or manually. Very easy. You can even use buttons on the GPIO pins. We'll talk about this. You could use your Stream Deck or just literally push button switches or rocker switches or toggle switches, anything to give a physical command to this board to switch cameras. It's not how I do things, but I think it'd be a pretty good way to do it. And then you can actually you can do complicated things like running SRT LA bonding on this, or maybe you could even run something a little bit shittier like Speedify. Speedify is okay if you run it on a board like this, and then turn off encryption, and then turn off the, or put it just in UDP mode or whatever. be okay. So you actually could bond with this. You could plug Starlink in via Ethernet, plug a couple cell phone modems into this, or just plug your cell phones into it. You could have, let's see, like 4. Well, you would have an SSD. You could put, like, reasonably speaking, you could put 2 modems on this, plus Ethernet, plus Wi-Fi. And now you've got a bonding system that's your camera switcher, and it's recording every single input all the time, which is good, which is what you want. So there's a lot of, and that's a side project from what we're doing, but that is something we're going to be doing with our builds or our, rapid deployment systems here. We're going to be recording these cameras locally because some of them may have more than one camera on them, and you want to record those as individual video inputs. So there's a lot of possibilities we can do here. And of course, then we get into, maybe you want to install a weather station, right? Maybe you want to put your Tempest or your RM Young on it. We can interface with all that. That's kind of that's something we're going to have Don on here for, to talk about a little bit more and how we do that. But because of these ground power in and out pins, we can actually interface with a lot of weather stations, Davis, Tempest, RM Young. You can pretty much anything that outputs like serial data or has any sort of documentation online to do it. We can do that as well. So folks, you may be able to figure out why this is important, not just for weather. There's other facets of streaming this goes into. IRL streamers, outdoor streamers. Project WeatherEye is not just about, it's not just about making a probe that goes into a tornado and live streams. It's about giving you folks a springboard or a development platform to build things that you can tie into streaming and weather. It's not just for storm chasers. We've got plenty of audience members that have bought our entire parts list and they're ready to start building and and maybe build something like this. And while they might not be automatically going into my YouTube stream or the Radar Omega app or anything like that, we can give you guys a place to put that, whether you want to stream to YouTube or you just want that web player. So just kind of want to give you guys a taste for what we're doing here. And I want to let you guys know that this is meant to be a community here where we can really kind of, brainstorm and make this stuff work. Again, this would be fantastic if I actually had that frickin' orange Pi board here like it's supposed to be, and then we could, actually set this up. So I guess, folks, I don't have a whole lot that I can talk about on this live stream tonight. I really don't, because USPS really kind of screwed me here on this one. Go ahead and throw your stuff in chat. I guess if you've got thoughts or wishes or something you want to see with this project, throw it in chat. Let's actually look in Radar Omega. Are we still stable? Yeah, I tell you what, guys, maybe FFmpeg ain't the way to do it. The OBS instance seems to be way more stable. There's no image stabilization on this whatsoever. The OBS instance seems to be way more stable than the FFmpeg instances. So I'm almost wondering, honestly, folks, I'm going to do some digging, and I actually may recommend that folks just install OBS on here. I can't believe I'm saying that, but running OBS and setting OBS to automatically, stream and stuff, because you can actually run in the script. Somehow it's like -- start stream or something like that. I really didn't want to do this, but this is just running too good. Because the problem is, folks, when I run FFmpeg, I might be able to show you guys some of this. Yeah, this essentially is a storm probe, yes, but it's more than that, because you can adapt these to different things, right? So yeah, kind of. So yes and no. It is everything, and everything is it. Maybe that's going to be our new tagline. Project WeatherEye is everything. I'm not an running OBS headless fan, but I tell you what, I'll show you I might be able to show you what happens with FFmpeg. So again, we're using what's called the terminal right now in VNC mode, the terminal. That's basically, it kind of looks like command prompts where you put your command lines in for this. Let me bring up my notes, and these will all be put for you guys later. I'll show you guys some of the script. Ooh, can I do this without? I can't show you this without showing you the, gosh damn it. I'm trying to not show you guys my dang, hold on. I'll put it over here. So here's some of like what our code is going to look like, right? So I began kind of installing it or writing it out here. And I just want to break it down a little bit, again, so we're kind of prepared here. I think, hold on a minute. If I go split screen like this, will it give me a bigger area? Is that a little better? So a couple of things here I want to point out. First step is, in my previous theory here, was to install ffmpeg. So we do a sudo apt update, which just updates all the systems on the device, and then sudo apt install ffmpeg. So that downloads ffmpeg, which is our video encoder. We have to run some scripts here to check the webcam. And then let's see. There's a script here as well to test the stream. You would put your RTMP or SRT or whatever here. There's some command lines here to set the frame rate, specify the webcam input, change the codec, bitrate. And then we've got where we build the script and then make it executable, make it a service file. And then this is what the script is, which is essentially running, or it's a service set to run our script, which will be something telling the computer what to do. It'll be like, ffmpeg start, pull USB, stroke dev stroke video stroke 0 or whatever the address of the USB camera is. And then it'll be like, set frame rate, set resolution, set codec, and then it'll say where to send it. Things like that. And then we'll have to build some script or some command lines to recognize that it's a service, make it executable, and then run it on boot, because we don't want to, obviously, you're going to go deploy this in a Tornado or something. We're not going to plug this into a computer monitor, log into it, and start it. That's ridiculous. You're going to plug the power bank into it, and it's going to go. So you plug it in and it works. That's all it does. It just plug it in. 30 seconds later, it's booted up and it works. So we'll have to have it run on boot. And then we've got some other command lines in here to kind of check the services and run a daemon, so that if it fails for whatever reason, it'll try to start it again. And if it doesn't start again, if it fails for whatever reason, like the USB came unplugged and the address, basically the address of where the USB camera is failed, it'll automatically try to find something new. Like it'll either try to find the new address, so that fails, and it'll actually just reboot the damn system and just start over. So kind of a simulated turn on and turn off kind of thing. So basically fail safes, right? Those are always important to have fail safes in our scripts. But let's see here. If I can pull up, I'm trying to remember what address I have here for the stinking. I gotta look in my notes. Hold on. I have to figure out where the damn script is. I'll actually show you the script that we're using. Oh, frick. Where does it exist? Sudo nano something. Gosh dang it. Where in God's name did I put the thing? I've got it in my notes somewhere. Actually, hold on a minute. We don't need that. It's right here. It's right here. Duh. We'll just open it with text editor. So what you're looking at here is essentially, let's see if I can make this fit. What you're looking at here is essentially the script. It's a text file basically saved as a script, and it tells the little computer what to do. So up here, these just to give you guys a head start here, these things here, these lines, these descriptor lines that have a little hashtag or a pound sign in front of them, those are indicating lines that are like descriptor lines or lines that really don't have anything to do with the code. We just use them to describe what's happening. So for example, here, this little bit of code here waits for the USB camera to be available before the script runs. Essentially, what the problem I was having was when this system would start, it would run the script, but the camera wouldn't be available yet. And then it would restart the script, it would run the script, the camera would become available, and then the script would reboot because it's missing the camera. And then the camera would trigger it to run the camera, and then it was happening in the wrong order. So this makes it so that the script doesn't run until the camera is booted, which takes like 5 seconds after boot up. So it just says, pound sign, wait for USB cam to be available. So that's just a note to us as developers here. And it does this little until, and then it's got the brackets, the -e dev -video 0, which is the address for the webcam, do sleep 1, done. So that basically tells the computer, hey, make sure that this camera is found on basically the USB port. And then down here, we've got command sets power line frequency to 60 Hertz. So we do this V4L2-CTL. Now that's basically like the USB webcam system, if you want to call it, for these distributions. -D, then dev video, which is the address of the camera, -C, and then power _line _frequency equals 2. Frequency equals 1 is 50 Hertz. Frequency equals 2 is 60 Hertz. So us over here, and I set that in OBS. You guys saw that. We need to set it to 60 Hertz, or you have those goofy lines that show up. And then we've also got the start FFmpeg and streams to RTMP server. Now this will obviously, once we get doing SRT and SRT LA, we're going to have to switch this over to do SRT. But we basically do, FFmpeg, and then it gives a command with attributes. So our attribute here is like -frame rate 15. It's going to send at 15 frames per second. Obviously, the end product is going to be probably 60 FPS. But because we're running this on this really, really crappy piece of hardware right now, we're just going to run 15 FPS. And -G30, that's going to send a keyframe every 2 seconds because we got 15. That -G is for keyframes, and that basically helps the receiver or the server sync up. So you've got those keyframes every 2 seconds. It looks for them and it syncs up the video. 15 frames per second. That means it's going to, in 1 second, there'll be 15 video frames. And the hold on a second, the -G, that means there's going to be a keyframe every 30 frames. So, 30 divided by 2, it's 15. It's every 2 seconds. And that's telling us it's going to use the USB cam. That's the stroke dev, stroke video. Scale, this attribute tells it to be in 720p, so 1280 across, 720 down. Lib X264, that is the codec. So X264 or H264 codec. You can come here and say hi. Camera's up here. Here. Say hi. Wrong way. -BV1M, that's a 1 megabit or 1000 kilobits per second bit rate. And then we're using an attribute of preset ultrafast. That's basically the encoding preset. Ultrafast is easier on the CPU, but crappy quality. This is a crappy piece of hardware right here. So that's why we're doing that. VSync 1, I actually don't remember what the hell that does, but I know that it's important to have in here. RTMP buffer, I've got a 5-second buffer. We don't need that much. That's just for testing. And then -F, it's like a format. And then FLV, it's like a flash video thing, whatever. And then the RTMP key. So RTMP, stroke, whatever. Or if we're running SRT for you folks that are going to be advanced users, that's where we're going to start putting our SRT information. And some of this line will have to change for that too. But then below it, I've got this kill FFmpeg if it stops unexpectedly. The reason for that is sometimes this instance or an instance of FFmpeg will stay running. If there's a problem and it crashes, or if I overload it, it'll keep FFmpeg running, but it won't kill the full process tree. And that's a problem because then FFmpeg restarts and it's already running, and it's just a never-ending loop of it's trying to run a new, version, a new instance of something that's broken. And that's not good. So we do trap, and then this user bin p kill FFmpeg on exit. So that basically runs that. So that's our script. So I know this all seems really foreign to a lot of folks, but it's not that bad. We're going to learn this, we're going to learn this together. By no means am I an expert at all. But we're going to get through this together, and this really won't be that hard. So, all right, kid got here just in time for us to be finished and not have her driving me nuts. I am going to get a whiteboard because I think we need one to kind of draw something. Put one back there. But folks, I apologize if this has been kind of a slow start on things, but I want to thank everybody because, this is going to be pretty cool, right? We've got, the Radar Omega integration, like I showed you folks, we're going to easily be able to, drop these into the app and you'll click on them. And folks, it's not just me, it's going to be a team effort. We've got some associates, colleagues, whatever, that'll help out with this. And, it's not ever going to be perfect because there's still going to be dead zones that we're going to have to deal with. So it might not work in all places, but we're going to try. And I want to make this, we're going to make this as open source as possible so you guys can actually interface, your own weather stations. I'm not telling you folks that we're going to put everybody's device here in the app by any means. At least it's not really the intent right now, but we're going to give you a way that you can interface something similar to this with your own equipment. And then, or your own ecosystem. And then you can kind of, be part of the Project WeatherEye ecosystem, so to speak, if that makes sense. You can say you're affiliated with Project WeatherEye or whatever, you're using the community built stuff. And I think it's going to be really cool, and you don't have to be a storm chaser to apply these to what we're using. So I'll just open this up for questions and answers, I guess, at this point. It is going to be pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I really am, because I enjoy doing this stuff. I cannot wait for the freaking orange pie to show up, though. My God, it's ridiculous. Let's see. I probably should skim the chat. Yeah, there's no reason we couldn't take your weather station data. Stop. God, you're weird. Stop. Christ. Take your weather station data and actually publish it to, let's say, an HTML page. And you could actually, or an HTML web page, and you could host that. What are you doing? And you could host that and format it and bring that into your stream. It'd be pretty cool, right? So you could send your raw weather station data. You could have an HTML page set up as a browser source in your stream, and it could bring in your temperature and all sorts of stuff like that. We've also got, the cyclone port systems as well. That's kind of sort of how they work. You've seen them in Radar Omega, and they get, weather station data from the sensors. And the proprietary sensors, they send that information to the cloud, and the application ingests that data and it displays it for the user. You guys can kind of make your own thing like that. And, that's, folks, this is going to be a never-ending project. We might not get to that for the next 6 months, but we're going to be getting to a lot of really cool stuff here. And, kind of having the application working in the background with us here gives us a lot of ways to really show you guys how this works. And the bread and butter of this, would you just quit being weird? The bread and butter of this is really going to be the fact that, we're going to be deploying these and testing them in the path of tornadoes and hailstorms and stuff like that. So we're going to know if this hardware is any good before you go and build your own. If you go build your own and we decide, hey, this camera is getting destroyed by quarter-sized hail, well, it's time to do a different camera. So it's a really good test bed. Can you just stop for like 2 minutes in your life and not be annoying for me? I don't know what's wrong with this thing. All right, can you get the frick out of here? All right. Hey, do me a favor. Go away. Get lost. Yep, get lost. Go find mom. Go find mom. Hold on. Go. Go away. Bye. All right, now that thing's all out of here. Jay Smith, just an idea. Give everyone who has a WeatherEye a sticker and an ID number to put it. That's a good idea, honestly. Labeling them. Maybe we should do something like that for the community though too. Like if you build something kind of off of this platform, maybe you get, I don't know, you do a successful build, you get a t-shirt. I don't know, or have some sort of database and say, this is this person's device or whatever. I think that's actually a good idea. You mentioned plugging in a small router or mobile connection. My question is, how would the Raspberry Pi know how to switch to a stronger connection? You'd have to run some sort of other system. So like Speedify is one that'll work. It's basically like a software bonding solution, and it runs in the background and basically divvies up the data over different lines, and then it assembles it in the cloud back. I'm not a huge Speedify fan, but it would work in this scenario. A better way to do it is SRT LA, which is basically SRT link aggregation. So it's like sending out the video over different parts of the network, and there's an algorithm, and it can tell which network is more or less lossy, and it'll send it over the most appropriate network, and it's always changing. That's going to be kind of complicated though to do, but it will work. So that's kind of how we're going to have to do that, because otherwise. Correct. Otherwise, it doesn't know that it's going to, which network to be on. Plans for the enclosure. We don't know. We've thought about 3D printing, and that's something that once this stuff is kind of put together, we're gonna probably take a live stream to Home Depot. There's a couple of like plastic enclosures that would probably work well, but some of these are going to be, some of these are actually just going to be a box and a roll of tape. Yes, it does act like a VPN, and Daniel does use them, and he actually has okay luck with them. So yeah, that's what Daniel uses exactly. But thanks Diana, by the way, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. But yeah, folks. So some of these are going to be literally just in a box that we can just duct tape to a fence post. Some of these I have the intentions of like a sharp piece of rebar or something, basically like a stake. A stake that could go into something and have a way to clip it onto there. Quite frankly, I really don't care if these things get blown away, because in theory, if a tornado came by, takes a direct hit, and the thing ends up 3 counties over, I mean, shit, can you imagine a live stream of the camera like going flying through the air? Like, shit, I don't want that stuff to stay on a fence post. Take it. For the love of God, please take it. Send it 3 counties away. Can you imagine the live stream video from that? So that's also why we're building these as cheap as possible too, because we probably are going to lose a few here and there. What do you want? 1 second. Can you do that? Can you go tell mom that? What are you pointing at? What? What? She's just over here pointing at stuff. Can you like go do something? Go get your mom? What about it? Yeah, what about it? Do you want to play with this one? Do not drop, chew on, spit on, drool on, give to the cats, or otherwise piss around with this thing, okay? But if you want to hold on to it and carry it around and feel important, go for it. Don't break it, okay? Promise? She's totally going to break that. Yeah, the corkscrew, like the dog stick. Yeah, I've thought about those too. Like, essentially, what I want to have is like a toolkit with like maybe a sharp piece of rebar, and then like maybe a T-bar, and then like a like one of those corkscrew things, and maybe just frankly just a heavy metal plate with a mount on it as well, because folks, like there's never going to be a perfect mounting solution or whatever. You just need something to quit screwing with that thing. You just need something to basically adapt to what you got, because it might not always have a fence post, might not always have a tree. What did we just do to this industry? Oh, you just wait. She's got something to tell you. What are you doing? Bye.
Hi. Hi.
Okay. Oh, God damn it. Get this fucking cat out of here. I'm not doing the cats. Get them out. Nope, not today. No. That's locking the cats in. I said get the cats out. Wrong. Lily, come get your cat. For the love of God, get them out of here. Huh? Great. Yeah, which cat? More like which cats. So, no, I seriously can't have the cats in here because they like destroy my shit. So, what about putting a location system on it so you can find? Yeah. So, Toby, we've got USB capabilities with a GPS puck. So, USB GPS is really easy. So that's what we'll use. But yeah, this is going to be a big thing, and it's kind of a tough thing for me to stream about, right? Because I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on how to like dumb this stuff down and show it step by step. So it's going to be a learning experience for me too. God, it's just nice to see stuff coming together, though. Yeah, once those orange pies eaters. So honestly, folks, I'm really sorry that tonight's live stream kind of sucks. Thanks for the super chats, though, folks. You guys are supporting the channel. This is a huge financial endeavor as well, and of course, obviously, thanks to the Radar Omega folks for believing in this and backing it. I'll give you one more look here at the integration. Right here's our development. Here's our first rapid deployment device being tested in the apps, being tested right next to me. It's here in Wisconsin. You can toggle those cyclone ports on. And that's what it's going to look like. We'll probably put a pressure sensor on it so you'll be able to see pressure in millibars as well. Be pretty cool. Have you guys noticed quality issues now that I've switched to Chrome? I feel like Chrome fixed our problems. I feel like Chrome fixed our problems, which is good. Folks, I think I'm out of here. Thank you for the financial support tonight. PayPal contributors, you as well. Go to projectweathereye.com for more of our information. Please subscribe on social media as well. At STS WeatherEye is our new X account. So seriously, folks, thank you for kind of making the stream become a reality. So I think the easiest thing for us to do is to set an agenda for tomorrow because it really helps these live streams flow. So we're going to come up with an agenda real quick. Where is... What? What? Fuck friends? That's what it sounded like. Barflies? Yeah. I have no idea what the hell she's saying. Let's make an agenda for tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow stuff. All right, so what's most valuable to you people? By the way, my kid drops the F-bomb all the time. So I'm honestly surprised that we haven't had an incident tonight. And the reason she does it is because she hears me say it all the time because I use that word like a comma. And she picks up on it and she thinks it's hilarious when I laugh at stuff, and it's really hard to not laugh. So I'm honestly surprised we haven't had an F-bomb incident tonight. But anyway, so tomorrow's stuff. So I think we'll probably start the live stream with, and now's your chance, folks, figure out what we're going to do here. First thing, we should probably actually remind people of build list and Amazon list / website. So basically just go to the website, go through that stuff. It takes 2 seconds. And then remind people of Arrow integration. So we'll just briefly remind you folks of the Radar Omega integration because I feel like for you guys to know what we're getting at, you need to see it in action, if that makes sense. And then after that, we're going to, let's see, we'll give a tour of the Orange Pi 5. So we'll give a tour of the Orange Pi. So, we'll look at the board, we'll explain the inputs and get, used to it. And we'll talk to set it up. So about installing it in the case. which is going to be this thing, which I know a lot of people bought. This is kind of optional, but it's a nice metal case with a fan. So before we start programming with it, I think we better, physically get it set up. Installing the case, powering it. We'll choose if it's going to be battery powered or what. Hold on a second. Battery power. Let's see, and then connecting. Oh, well, we'll do burning OS image to the device. So burn the OS image to the device. Install OS image to device. HDMI hookup. And then we'll do how to VNC or SSH. Props VNC because SSH sucks when you can't just VNC. And then we'll talk. So tomorrow we'll talk about installing in the case, powering it, putting the OS on the SD card, putting the SD card in the device to get the OS, and then we'll talk about how to either hook it up to a HDMI keyboard with or an HDMI port thing with a keyboard and mouse, or just doing VNC or SSH from a remote computer. So if you want to set it up as if it is a computer with your keyboard, your mouse, and your monitor, you can. Or if you just want to plug it into your network and then use a different computer like I usually do, we'll talk about how to do that. That'll cover getting everything set up and getting you a working device. And then depending on time, I'm going to put a line break. After that, this might go into another live stream, but we can first install. Hold on. Go over USB camera settings. So we'll talk about after that's done, we'll talk about going over the USB camera. And then the settings, because we're going to have to change that before we do anything, the 50 to 60 hertz thing. So we'll deal with those settings. And then I think after that, we're going to want to do, let's see here. I think it would be reasonable to update apps, get update commands and terminal. So we'll do the terminal. We'll give it the update commands to update the system. And then we will probably install FFmpeg. Whether that's going to be FFmpeg or OBS headless mode, whichever, I don't know, but one of those we will do. And then actually, before we do any of this, pick and so before we actually get into the Orange Pi, I think we should probably pick a video stream endpoint. So that way, for you folks that are building this, you have somewhere to send the stream, because I don't want to start doing all this programming and then not having you guys have a way to test the stream. You know what I'm saying? So we'll just pick a video endpoint. So like an RTMP feed, like through Caster or SRT or whatever. We'll probably just start with RTMP because it's easiest. And then for the folks that want to stay on RTMP, you can stay on RTMP. And the folks that need to go to SRT or something else, we'll go back in and we'll modify things. Start basic, make it work, go back in, change it, make it better. All right, so let's see here. So we'll take a tour of the Amazon list, the website, RO, how it goes in there, pick a video stream endpoint, tour the Orange Pi, so buttons, peripherals, all that, ports, and then we'll do the requirements. So we'll install it in the case, we'll power it up, give it an OS image, install the OS image. We'll talk about if you're going to HDMI or VNC SSH into it, whichever method you're going to use. And then we'll talk about putting the USB camera on it, because obviously we need that to test. Then we'll change the USB camera settings. We'll do an update in the terminal to make sure everything we have is updated. And then we'll start installing FFmpeg. or OBS or whatever we actually end up using. I'll make a decision tonight for that stuff, and then we will start sending a test stream to the endpoint. And I think that's going to be it. I think that's going to be it. This actually might for the first stream, because if we get all this in one stream, that's going to be a lot. So we'll do all this as much as we can here in one stream, and then that'll basically be a very simple thing. We will things to do later. Run ffmpeg or OBS at startup. I think some other things that we'll do later that we won't cover on this first stream, we'll have to do, how to run ffmpeg or OBS at startup. I even include Nginx in there. We'll show you guys how to put Nginx on if you just really want to go easy. And of course, ffmpeg or OBS will have to handle the reconnection logic no matter what we use. So like if the connection drops, make sure it doesn't just stall out. Make sure that it actually, tries to reconnect to the cell network. And then power on. Power on and off safeties, scripts and services, basically things that make sure everything that we need boots up automatically when power is applied. Because the problem is we can set all this stuff up and make it work, but it has to work automatically, because when we plug in power, we obviously need this all to just turn on. So how's that sound? That sound fair? All right, folks. There we go. Now we know what we're doing on the next stream. So thanks for riding along, folks. And I think that'll be it for tonight. I'm going to go back to actually, I might boot up a members only stream in a little bit here, maybe, and just go over screwing around with some of these OBS settings up here, maybe. So I hope you all guys all have a good night. Thank you again, seriously. Appreciate the financial support, the moral support, etc. And we'll make this fun, and we'll do the best we can with it. So have a good night, folks. We will see you at some point tomorrow. I'm not sure when. Trying to stream at different times of the day, because sometimes we have more viewers different times of the day. So have a good one, folks. See you later. Find our Discord server, seethestorm.net, and projectweathereye.com. Have a good night.